This video is for anyone who's in a relationship they know needs to end and they just don't know how to, they just don't know how to let go. Or if you already are broken up and you just don't know how to let go of that person, this video is for you. Most of the time when we cling on to someone, it has nothing to do with them and everything to do with us. And so I want to explore all of the common reasons as to why we tend to hold on to someone so tightly and why we make it so tough for ourselves to move on and finally let go. I feel like the number one reason why we tend to cling on to things that aren't good for us is fear. And there's a fear of a lot of things. It's not just one, but first and foremost, the fear of being alone. The fear of being alone often keeps us in a situation that's bad for us. Our brain often tricks us into thinking that being alone is bad. I don't blame you. I mean, society in general makes us believe that loneliness equals bad. We all at some point in our lives need to learn how to be alone. It's an essential skill because the truth of the matter is not everyone's going to be in our life all the time. Like our parents, our family, our friends, they're not going to always be there. So we're at some point going to be alone and we're going to have to learn how to not just only survive that, but be able to thrive on our own. Only when you find peace and happiness on your own, that then you should be looking for someone to add on to your life. You shouldn't be clinging on to someone because you're afraid of being alone. It's kind of like that analogy where if you go to a grocery store and you're really, really hungry, you tend to just grab the first thing that you see. And that first thing is usually not healthy. The same thing goes for relationships. If you are in a relationship because you're just afraid of being alone, you may not necessarily be with someone or be in a relationship that's healthy. I don't want the fear of being alone keep you in a bad situation. Because what if I were to tell you it's not as bad as it seems? What if I were to tell you it's quite liberating? It's quite peaceful. The fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown is a big one, and it makes sense because we often tend to get afraid when we can't predict what's going to happen. We'd so much rather stay in a situation that's familiar, even if it's not good for us, even if it's painful. We'd so much rather stay in that situation because it's familiar and we know it and we know how it's going to work out, rather than take that leap of faith and leave that person, leave that relationship and let go of them in order to find something new in your life. And it makes sense. This dates back to, back in the old days when we were trying to survive out in the wild. It's much better to be around a familiar environment rather than to be around something that's unknown, because there's a lot of dangers out there. There's tigers, there's bears, you could get killed. And so it makes sense. It's sort of like going into a dark room and you can't see anything, you don't know what's happening, you automatically get afraid, like your heart starts beating faster. The same thing for life in general. Whenever we're faced with a change that we should make, we tend to get fearful, and that makes us stay in a situation where we should have left months ago. Another fear that often keeps us stuck is, well, what if they were the right person? What if they were the one? Let me straighten this up once and for all. They were not the right person. They were not the right person because they didn't choose you. A relationship can only work if two people choose each other and they choose to accept the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, all of it. If someone decides not to choose you, then it's automatically telling you that they're not the one. So that fear should automatically just go away. If anything, this is bringing you one step closer to actually finding the one. Another reason why we tend to cling on to someone so much is because we place them on a pedestal. This usually happens initially after a breakup or a separation. You tend to think a lot about all their good traits and you tend to ignore everything that went wrong. And I want you to realize that this is all an illusion your brain's creating, because your brain doesn't want you to give this person up. It's like an addiction. You're going to suddenly think that they were the best human being to ever exist and that you ruined it all. It's really easy to fall down this trap where you think that they were just the best person to ever exist and they didn't do anything wrong. And our brain tends to just glamorize the past. This tends to happen with like any memory that we've had in the past. We tend to just romanticize and glamorize what happened when in reality that was not the situation. And once again, to remind you, if they truly were the one, you wouldn't be in this situation. You wouldn't be watching this video. So in these kinds of moments, it's really important to write down a list, like on your phone, of everything that wasn't right about this person, about all the fights that you had. Write about all the times where they belittled your needs or didn't have proper communication, or just in times where things just didn't work. You should write that out so that in any moment where you start doubting yourself and you start thinking that they were the best thing that you ever had or the best thing that you'll ever have in your life, read that list and remind yourself, okay? This is a trick our brain plays on us because our brain doesn't like change. Our brain doesn't want us to move on. And so we have to be able to master this. Another reason we tend to hold on to someone is because we fear that we're unworthy of love. Like if this person couldn't make it work with me, if this person doesn't love me anymore, then that means I'm not worthy of love. That means that I'm broken. And that is so far from the truth. There's so many good people that I know that are so kind-hearted, that are so healed, and are genuinely such good people that end up in relationships that are just not good for them. And that happens. That has nothing to do with you. Someone not choosing you has nothing to do with you. Another reason why we tend to cling on to this person is because we cling on to the version of ourselves that we were once with them. And honestly, that sucks. Like that actually does suck because yeah, when you go through a breakup, a part of you that existed with them, it does die. And that's just the beauty of life, right? Things have to just wither away. In order for something new to come, something old must go. And the faster you accept that, the sooner you'll be healed. You'll never be that person again. You'll never be that person you were when you were with them. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You'll be better. You'll be stronger. You'll know what healthy love should look like. I don't think you want to necessarily stay stuck as one person. You know, we should always be forever evolving and changing and growing. And so, yes, you can mourn that past version of you, but try not to cling on to that identity too hard. You're meant to change. You're meant to grow. And you're meant to let go. We tend to hold on to people because we want to be seen. We want them to see the good in us. We want them to tell us that we're worthy of love, and we want to be validated. And all of these things are good to want, but not from someone else. You can get that from yourself. Oftentimes we fight for someone so much because we want to be seen. We want to be understood. We want them to see the good in us, the light in us. And if they don't see it, we get scared because we truly believe that we're not good. We're not worthy of love. You cannot place your worth into someone else's hands. As soon as you do that, you give them all the power. As soon as that person changes their mind, your worth just goes away. You have to be able to know your own worth, know your own value. If you're a kind, compassionate, caring person who's always willing to grow, know that these traits are so rare and so valuable. And if someone else doesn't see that, then that's their loss. But I want you to protect those at all costs. And don't let anyone tell you that you're a bad person. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not worthy of love, including yourself. Don't let yourself talk to yourself like that. And then lastly, another reason why we tend to cling on to someone is because they're reinforcing our past trauma. This is just a reminder that there's so much inner work that needs to be done when you're healing. What do I mean by reinforcing past trauma? Most of us, unfortunately, have not received unconditional love. Unconditional love means that you're accepted no matter what, and you don't have to work or fight for love. So when we don't receive this early on in childhood, we tend to seek appraisal and validation from others because we've never been shown unconditional love. We assume that we have to work hard to be loved. We assume that we have to fight to be loved. This plays out in relationships. So many of us tend to fight to keep that person, right? And I don't blame you. It's been heavily romanticized in movies, in books, in literature, and it seems so romantic, but I want to remind you that it is anything but romantic. Fighting for someone is anything but romantic. It's sad, because it shows us that we've had wounds from our childhood where we had to work hard to be loved. Where if one day we got good grades, we're loved, and if we didn't, then we're hated. And so that plays out also in our relationships in the future. You shouldn't have to fight for love. And I've come to realize that now. I've realized that fighting is not romantic. And honestly, the biggest turnoff is when someone doesn't choose you. Automatically, if someone doesn't choose me, and if I have to convince them to be with me, I know that it's done, because I'm not fighting for someone to stay. I'm not fighting for someone to love me. I'm not going to write down a whole list of things as to why they shouldn't leave. And anytime that someone does that, I feel really sad, because I just see that inner child who was fighting so hard to be loved, and we're constantly just trying to fill this hole, and it's never going to be filled, because it all should have come from within us, and we just were never taught how to love ourselves. There's nothing sexy about chasing someone or wanting to be chased or fighting for love. That's not how it should be. That's not healthy. Oftentimes, we convince ourselves that we're in this like epic romantic love saga, and we have to just hold on to them. And the more we hold on to them, that shows us how deep our love is for them. But that's not true. This is not a epic romantic love saga. Unfortunately, this is life. And the more you hold on to someone that's not good for you, the more you're going to suffer. My question to you is, why do you continue to pour energy into something or someone that's not giving back, that's not choosing to choose you? I want you to question that for yourself, because it doesn't make any sense, right? Why would you choose to hold on to someone who didn't choose you back? And really just reflect on that. And I guarantee you, you're going to start thinking about your childhood and how you had to fight to be loved and how you had to prove your worth. Oftentimes, we cling on to someone because we don't have a strong sense of self, and we look to others for validation, and we look to others for love, because if no one else around us tells us we're good, we don't know that we're good. But you can do that yourself. And once you learn how to love yourself, and once you learn how to validate yourself, you're not gonna need it from anyone else ever again. All right, so if you made it to the end of this video, thank you. I hope this made sense. It wasn't as concise as I would have liked it to be. I'm a little scatterbrained today, I'm not gonna lie, but I hope that I can help guide you to just listen to your inner voice and make this process as easy as possible. Because the faster you let go, the easier your life will be. And I want to end it off by saying, when we stop forcing people to choose us, we make room for people that were made for us. So hang in there, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.